All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at a really fascinating research paper that introduces a whole new way of thinking about optimization, something called quality diversity.
But before we go any further, I want you to think about this question. When you're tackling a really tough problem, is finding the one single best solution always the right way to go?
Because this paper argues that for some of the world's most complex challenges, we're talking about things like drug discovery or building truly resilient robots, what you actually need isn't one single silver bullet. No, you need a whole arsenal of really, really good options.
So, here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start by going beyond the best answer. Then, we'll look at how we can start mapping the solution space. After that, we'll dig into measuring true diversity, which is a key idea here. We'll break down the Go Explore strategy, see it in action from mazes to molecules, and wrap up with what this means for a smarter way to search. Let's do it.
All right, first up, why do we even need to look for anything other than the very best answer? Well, the paper draws this beautiful parallel to evolution. Survival of the fittest is basically a giant, continuous optimization problem. But think about it. Evolution doesn't just create one single perfect organism. Not at all. It creates this incredible diversity of creatures, all of them good enough to survive in their own unique way. And that's exactly the mindset we need to adopt here. So here's the fundamental difference. Picture a vast mountain range. A traditional optimization algorithm is like a mountain climber whose only goal is to find the single highest peak. That's it. But a quality diversity, or QD algorithm, is more like a cartographer. Its job is to create a detailed map of the entire landscape, all the interesting peaks, the high-altitude plateaus, and even the useful valleys. It's not just about the one highest point. It's about understanding the whole territory. Okay, so if these algorithms are like cartographers, how in the world do they actually create one of these maps of all the possible solutions? Well, the very first step is to break up the problem. Before the search even kicks off, a QD algorithm carves up the entire landscape of possibilities into a grid of distinct regions, or what the paper calls cells. This becomes the basic structure, the grid lines for our map. And this is just a brilliant way of showing how they do it. Instead of a boring old square grid, they often use a more organic approach. They scatter a set of landmarks, those black dots you see, across the space. Think of them like base camps. Each base camp then claims its own territory, its cell, which is just all the points on the map that are closer to it than to any other base camp. And what's so cool here is how flexible this is. The map can be pretty simple, like you see on the left, where each cell is just defined by the single closest landmark. Or it can get way more complex, where a cell is defined by its 2 or 3 closest landmarks. This creates a much more detailed, more nuanced map, which helps the algorithm organize everything it finds with incredible precision. Now, for every single one of these cells on our map, the algorithm keeps track of one very special solution. It's called the elite, and it's pretty simple. The elite is the best performing solution that the algorithm has found so far inside that one specific cell. So every little region on our map gets its own champion. Okay, so we're building a map, but how do we know if it's a good map? How do we know if we're actually finding diverse things? This brings us to the real breakthrough in this paper, a whole new way to measure the diversity of our solutions. The authors borrow this really powerful idea from, of all places, the field of ecology. It's called magnitude. Imagine our cartographer just got a brand new, super advanced compass. Magnitude doesn't just count how many points you found. It measures the effective number of points by taking into account how different they are from each other. So how does this actually work? Well, it's all about scale. If you zoom way in, like on the left, a bunch of different solutions might just look like one big clump. But if you zoom out, as you see on the right, you suddenly realize they're all distinct individuals. Magnitude is what captures that difference. It's not just about counting how many cells you filled, it's about measuring the true variety in your collection of elites. It gives you a much richer, much more accurate picture of your map's quality. So, we have our map, and we have our advanced compass. Now let's talk about the actual strategy the algorithm uses to explore this whole landscape. It follows this beautifully simple loop called Go Explore. First, it goes back to one of the elites it's already found. Then, it explores the area right around that elite, just looking for something new or better. Any new solutions it stumbles upon get mapped into their proper cell. And finally, if a new solution turns out to be better than that cell's current champion, it gets updated to become the new elite.
Go, explore, map, update. That's the whole cycle.
And here's the secret sauce. The algorithm is constantly striking this delicate balance. It uses our new compass, magnitude, to guide its exploration, pushing it to visit lots of different kinds of cells to fill out the map. At the same time, it uses the quality of the elites to guide its exploitation, which means it spends more time in areas that are already known to have great solutions. It's this constant dance between discovering new territory and improving on what it already knows.
Now for the really fun part. All this theory sounds great, but does it actually work? Let's take a look at the results.
And the answer is a huge, resounding yes. I mean, the paper applies this thing to an incredible range of challenges. We're talking complex mathematical functions, super tricky lattice problems, even famously hard problems like spin glass, all the way to things like pathfinding in mazes and designing new proteins and chemicals. It's wild.
For instance, check this out. This is a classic optimization nightmare called the rastrogen function. See all those little dips? Each one is a trap where a normal algorithm could get stuck forever. But this method doesn't just find one way out. It finds a whole collection of different, really good solutions scattered all across the landscape. And this just shows you how flexible it is. Here, we have a totally different problem, finding good paths through a complex maze. And again, the algorithm doesn't just give you back one single path. Nope, it discovers a whole portfolio of different, effective routes, each one representing a totally distinct strategy for solving the maze.
So let's zoom out and wrap this up. What's the big picture takeaway here?
Look, this is more than just a clever new algorithm. It's really a shift in philosophy. By changing the goal from finding the one best answer to building a rich collection of diverse, high-quality answers, this gives us a powerful new tool. It's a way to tackle those messy, open-ended problems where creativity and having a plan B, C, and D are just as important as raw performance.
And that's the thought I want to leave you with. How many other problems in science, in engineering, maybe even in art, could we crack open if we just stopped looking for that one single perfect answer and started searching for a whole family of great ones instead?